The United States Supreme Court had a ruling that has to do with the unions and union membership, and Tony Daunt, Executive Director of the Michigan Freedom Fund, is on our AT&T line, having issued a statement with a banner headline, "Workers Win." Good morning, Mr. Daunt.
Good morning, Michael Patrick. How are you today?
Good. I'm interested in your words. What did the U.S. Supreme Court do yesterday, and why are workers winners?
Well, I guess the simplest way to say it would be they stood up for the First Amendment, free speech, free association rights of workers throughout the country, and they no longer have to belong to an association or to a group, in this instance, unions, that they don't agree with and they don't want to belong to.
In other words, is this a giant right to work for the entire United States of America?
That's basically exactly what it is. And it probably didn't get as much coverage here in Michigan, simply, and it did receive good coverage, but simply because we are a right-to-work state, probably for the last 6 years now, 5 or 6 years. And this is exactly what it is. It provides that freedom to everybody across the country. And this is public sector employee unions only at this point.
Mm-hmm. So there was a carve-out, as I understand, and I'm no expert, but you are. That's why I'm asking you. For the Michigan police and fire unions, they now have lost that exemption from the 2013 right-to-work law that we put into institution here in Michigan. True?
That would be correct, yes. And I would phrase it rather, instead of saying that they have lost that exemption, is that the folks who work in those unions and those facilities and belong to those unions now have the right to exercise their right to work freedoms as well.
Here is a man called Steve Rzepa from the AFSCME Council 25. He said they anticipated the Supreme Court would overturn the ruling. It's a Bood versus Detroit Board of Education 41 years ago, and did it yesterday by a 5-4 vote.
From the same token that it's not really going to affect us a lot in Michigan with AFSCME, that is, because we're already a right-to-work state.
He did, however, elaborate that the right-to-work law hasn't changed the way they do business. Here's what he said.
We've gone through a lot of tough crap before. We've come out ahead, and we're confident that we're going to keep working as hard as we possibly can to make sure that people have a chance at the American dream here in Michigan.
Is there still a place for unions, sir, in Michigan and in the United States?
I think there's a place for any group that wants to associate and exercise their First Amendment rights, whether that's a union, whether that's a trade association, whether that's the realtors or you name it. Mm-hmm. And the beauty of right-to-work law here in Michigan and now throughout the country is that people have the choice on whether or not they want to belong and whether or not they want to spend money for that organization. And if unions are doing what they purport to do in terms of representing their members and helping with insurance costs and things of that nature, then people will happily join and belong. If they're just engaged in left-wing politics, which I think you see the public sector labor unions in particular very heavily involved with, and upwards of 40% of union households don't agree with those politics. And so to force them to participate is an affront to their First Amendment rights.
Mark Janus, who brought the challenge that went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, is a government worker in Illinois. He was paying $4,500 a month to AFSCME.
I'd have to look into the specifics of that number, but if that is true, that's absurd.
That's a lot of cabbage.
$4,500 a year is a lot of cabbage.
$45 a month it is, Tony Cuthbert? Okay, we got our numbers mixed up here. $45 a month, not $4,500. But, to some people, that's a lot of money.
For some people, $4 is a lot of money. And, it doesn't matter if it was $4,500 a month or if it was 45 cents a month. People should not be compelled to spend their money and to participate in an organization that does things that they disagree with. It's compelled speech. It's probably the most offensive form of free speech violation there is. You're forcing somebody to say something they don't actually believe.
Math has never been my thing, but in any case, they won't have to spend a penny now if they don't want to. That's the fact,
That's exactly right.
Okay.
That's right.
Well, thank you very much for explaining that to us. Lots of action at the U.S. Supreme Court yesterday. That is Tony Daunt, the executive director of the Michigan Freedom Fund.